they have a couple of decent young guys. Two are transferring.
Is this travelable? If it's travelable, if you want, don't mind, I'll just bring this later. Will they be able, how will we do it with them? Do we have a quarantine? They can hear? Oh, you're up on the ceiling. Yes, I guess you just need to talk about it. Oh, I see. So I don't need this? Is that Good morning. How are you all? Good morning. I'm so glad you're here. It's so good to be back in Big Orange Country. My name is Lisa Fall. I was here for 16 orange years. I have since gone over to Pellissippi State, but I come back on a regular basis because I love CCI. So I wanted to go ahead and share with you all how we are going to handle the panel today. I am merely a facilitator, so you're not here to hear from me, you're here to hear from all of our wonderful panelists. So what I thought I would do is just frame for you the morning's agenda and then have each of our colleagues share their story. I want to encourage you all throughout this next hour, don't hesitate to raise your hand if you have a question for any of our colleagues. We want this to be interactive. That's how I coordinate my panels. This is my 6th year with the Diversity and Inclusion Program. It's very near and dear to my heart. So, today's panel talks about loss. How many of you, on the surface, you saw the title and you thought it's going to be a real negative, downer program? Anybody in here think that? Be honest. Guess what? My nickname is Susie Sunshine from Mr. McNair. What comes after we have loss? What is the opposite of loss?
Rebirth.
Gain.
Rebirth. Gain. Exactly. So, they are going to share their stories with you. But what's very enduring, I only know Drew's. I brought Drew with me from Pellissippi. They all have some very enduring stories. And if I had to predict, I would say that a lot of their stories are going to also talk about endurance and perseverance. So without further ado, we will start with Dr. Baker, and we will work our way that way.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Baker. I have my degree in clinical psychology, and I work at the Student Health Center in the Student Counseling Center. So I kind of am operating, I guess, today from a more psychological and mental health care standpoint. As with everyone, though, I have my own experiences with loss, so I like to approach that from just kind of using my own experiences, but also my education and things like that. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have from either side. So yeah, I'm happy to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Lloyd. I am a 3rd year here on campus. I'm part of the College Scholars Department, so I've created my own major called Film Production Studies with an emphasis in diversity and inclusion. So I also hold a few different hats on campus. I'm the co-director of the Health and Wellness Committee through SGA. I'm also the vice president of the Falls Falls Peer Health Educators through the Center for Health Education and Wellness. And I'm also the vice chair of Diversity Educators. What's really interesting about all of this is that they intersect at different points that allow me to engage with my peers on different perspectives. I too have different experiences with loss and coping with mental illness, along with my family and my friends. I think this is a really prevalent and important topic that we have to address on campus so that we're able to get resources across to each other. Because we're all struggling with something, and it's really important that we talk about that. So, thanks.
My name is Annie. I am a senior here at the university. I'm studying communication studies with a minor in business administration and French. I actually moved to the United States when I was 11 years old. So I speak 4 languages. I speak French. I speak 2 languages from Ghana and English. It has been a challenge for me, and I'd like to share that with you today.
Hi everyone, my name is Jonathan Chaffen. I am a non-traditional junior here at the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. I am from Memphis, Tennessee. I am 23 years of age. I am majoring in communication studies and minoring in music business. This isn't my first time here at UT. This is actually my second time. For a lot of you who don't know, some of the people in the room do know. So I definitely have my experiences with loss and also gain as well. But I'm grateful to be here. It's a blessing to be able to see you all's faces and be able to communicate about diversity and coping with life issues with you guys. Can't wait to share with you.
And my name is Drew. I go to Pellissippi, so I don't actually go to school here. It's not my first time on campus, though. I've been here a couple times for other events and things like that. And I have lots of not so fun stories, but also some really awesome gains from what I have been doing. And I'm really excited to share with you all and tell you all about ways that I've coped with that.
So I thought now what I would do is ask each of you all to share a little bit about your loss. And as I said, I'm getting goosebumps because I probably have heard some of these stories with my other students. This is an opportunity for you all to have dialogue and figure out how we can move forward and how we can help each other and lift each other up. Because you're all one big family here. As you look around you, I hope that some of you will keep in touch when you graduate. So when you do share some of these experiences and losses, that you can work with each other. So who would like to share? Who wants to start first?
I'll start. Hello again, guys. My name is Chaffen. To start, so making the transition from high school to college, I first came here at the University of Tennessee in 2013/14. I did my first year, and I left. But during that first year, I had some struggle. From the day I first entered college, which was July 6, 2013, through the UT LSI program, until the day I left, May 7, 2014, I questioned myself every day, what am I doing here? I did not know. I was trying to find my purpose. Growing up as a kid, I knew all I wanted to do was grow up and be a rock star drummer. Music is in my blood, music is my passion. Being behind the drum set, that puts me at ease through any type of adversity. So, upon leaving university, what prompted me to leave was the fact that I was accused of plagiarizing on my final math test by my professor of spring 2014. For the specific answer that she accused me of plagiarizing on, I did not cheat. Basically, how she put it to me through email when I asked her why did she accuse me, she said that basically the way I answered the question, I had to have some type of internet source. So what I interpreted from that was that she thought I was too smart. She didn't think I had the ability to think well enough to be able to answer as precisely as I did. And math is my favorite subject. So I left. That confirmed my feelings of me not needing to be here. I was supposed to be suspended for a full year, spring, fall, summer. But luckily, thankfully, somebody was in code of conduct who had my back, and I got suspended for just a semester. From that situation, I lost. I lost a full academic scholarship here at the University of Tennessee. But through that, I wanted a peace of mind. My headspace and my heart was more important to me than trying to suffer through 4 years to gain something that I did not really know how to appreciate. So I left for that semester, and then I attempted to go back to school at a community school, Southwest Tennessee Community College, back home in Middle Tennessee. I started 2 semesters, and then I started a third. And on Labor Day, September 7th, 2015, I decided to just stop going to school. So for 2.5 more years, I stayed out. Upon coming back, I came back spring of January 2017. I moved back December the 19th, 2016. 5 days before I moved back, I was in the middle of flying bullets with my best friend. We decided that we wanted to go out to a place that we hadn't been in a couple of months, that we thought it would be cool to go to. It was a Mexican restaurant. On Wednesday nights, it turns into karaoke. So it kind of turns into a little club scene, so forth and so on. So that was December 14th, 2016. I moved back December 19th, 2016. I did not revisit Memphis nor see my family again until July 14th, 2017. July 14th, 2017, I go home and I have what could have been a fatal car accident. I hit 3 objects. I did not feel the first 2. I woke up slinging my face into an airbag at a tree. First object, I hit a wooden pole. MLGNW is the Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. That's the electrical company back home in Memphis. I hit that pole. I did not feel it. I hit a brick mailbox. I shattered it. I did not feel it. I woke up, like I said, slinging my face into an airbag at a tree. And I got up. I was in a daze. I was shocked. I was asleep. I drove home to Memphis. I was in town for 5 hours. I kicked it with my best friend for a little bit, went to the bank, got food, so forth and so on. And then I finally decided to go see my family. Upon making a turn on the street that intersects with their street, I fell asleep in the turn. So that happened. I lost a car. I almost lost my life. But I made it. I'm still here. I didn't have any fractures, didn't have any broken bones, so forth and so on. So that goes on. That's July 14th, 2017. September 1st, that same best friend that I went home and hung out with, he was in a 4-car collision. I almost lost his life and didn't get to see his son be born, almost. September 30th, when we played Georgia last year, football home game, I was working at Copper Cellar. 2 hours into my shift, I have 2 older brothers. The oldest brother started a group message between us and said that our mom had had a 3rd stroke, that our dad had to rush her to the ER, 3rd stroke. So, tears break down. Cool. Thanksgiving, I'm able to go home. I almost thought I wasn't going to be able to go home, but I did. I cried watching people's Snapchats and Instagrams, seeing that you all are going to visit your family, and I couldn't. But I was blessed to be able to. So I go the whole fall semester with no car. December 17th, on my mom's birthday, I'm blessed to be able to get a car. But I go home for Christmas and I get robbed. So, I say all that to say this. I've had some trying times even up until now. I failed. Something that resonates with me is what my mom always said from when I was a child. She said, son, you are a star. Joy comes in the morning, and there is always sunshine after the rain. So every semester of college that I've ever had, I've always had a C, D, or an F. Spring semester this year, I did not see a C, D, or an F. Nor did I see any A's. What? nor did I see any A's. I made 3 B's and a B minus. But I took 2 summer classes and made my first 2 A's. I had great people in my life, such as Dean Michael Wirth and Mrs. Alice Wirth. They stayed in my corner. They kept mentoring me, and they never let me go. So one thing I will let you guys know is to stay optimistic. That's one of the bravest things in life that you can do. Never let the circumstances of life determine the outcome of your life. You have a purpose to fulfill. No matter what, take every no or loss as 3 more steps to gain. A friend and I discussed something 2 nights ago, and I'm gonna leave you with this. He said, Jonathan, right now, what we go through as students, as people, they're minor inconveniences right now, and we gotta suffer through them. And I had a revelation. I said, you know what? We gotta go through MI to get MO, which is more, short for more. I said, you said we gotta go through minor inconveniences? Yes, those minor inconveniences are gonna take us to mass opportunity, which is MO. God bless. Rockstar up, rockstar out.
Jonathan has actually answered the second question, so you're going to have to think of how you want to re-answer, because what I'm going to ask all of them, and thank you so much, I appreciate you getting things started. I'm going to ask you all how you're dealing with these challenges and what advice that you would give. I also want to add, before we hear from the others, Jonathan made a point that I wanted to share with you all on the panel, is that when we say loss, I know instantly we think of losing a family member or a loved one, possibly breaking away from somebody, but as Jonathan pointed out, loss could be something tangible that makes you unable to get from point A to point B. So loss can be defined a lot of different ways. When you leave for summer and come back in the fall, loss could be being separated from your family or not having to go back to class from 8 to 5. So think about that as we frame each of these questions and talk with each of your panelists. What kind of loss you may have endured and what kind of challenges you have overcome. Thank you, Jonathan. Who else would we like to hear from now?
You're giving me the look, so I guess I'll go. So I had a really hard time in high school. That wasn't exactly like my peak moment. I didn't have a great high school experience. Up until about junior year, I was being bullied really hard because I was a lesbian. I didn't have this attraction to men that they had to me. And it was really difficult because I was on drumline and things like that, and a lot of my interaction was with men in high school. I dealt with a lot of men in high school that, became very close friends of mine, but they thought, I led them on in this and that, which led to a lot of bullying and a lot of very hurtful comments about how I'm such a this and I'm such a that. And then continuing on from there, my junior year, my older brother died. And I hadn't come out to anyone in my family because I was in a more conservative home. I had a really hard time talking to them and getting, letting them know who I actually was. So a lot of myself was hidden within me, and I wasn't shown to people at school. It wasn't shown to people. People just thought that I was really weird for not wanting to date like the star football player or whoever. And a couple of weeks up until he died, I had consulted him that I was gay. He was the first person I came out to, the first person I ever said it out loud to, first time I ever said it out loud. And I hadn't seen him 3 years prior to this. He turned 18, he left home, and I hadn't seen him for 3 years. We only talked over the phone, over Messenger, didn't have a lot of connections because he wanted to travel, he wanted to go everywhere and do everything. So he was living on Hippie Hill in New Orleans, partying it up, having a great time, probably not showering, probably smelled like a foot, and he overdosed and was robbed in the back alley, which was really hard for us to find. We wanted to know why this happened. My parents looked into it, they went through all of his messages, and that's when they saw the message between him and I where we were talking about my sexual orientation. Which was really hard for them. And my mom at the time was pregnant. My stepdad at the time was just angry. He's always angry for some reason. And so he kicked me out of the house. He told me not in his house, not under his roof, not with his money. I wasn't allowed to be there. So I left. Which within leaving in this process was really difficult because I'm 17, I don't have a driver's license, I don't have a car, I don't have a job, I don't have anything. I just have going to school every day and going home. There's not a lot in between that when you're in high school. So I called a friend and I went and I lived at my friend's house for a little bit. I had a couch hop between friends because of course no one wants you staying with them for years on years. It's not their job, they're not your parent. My girlfriend's family at the time was nice enough to let me go live with them for a little bit until I could get to a family member who let me live with them, which is where I'm at now most of the time. And just all the hopping around and moving and everything really started a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression because you never know when you're going to go to this friend's house after school and they're going to say, hey, it's time for you to go. It's been 2 months. I think maybe it's time that you find a different house. I don't have a car. I don't know how I'm going to get to a different house. I don't have money. I don't know how I'm going to get a hotel room or do something. So I'm just depressed, I'm anxious, I never know what's going to happen. I don't eat unless I'm at school because I have no money. I can't just go buy dinner, and I'm not going to, eat at my friend's house. I feel terrible taking the food from them that they insist that I need to take, so I take it, but I don't eat it because I feel terrible. You always feel bad when you're taking from people. And it wasn't like my friends had the most money in the world. They were people that lived in apartments that were struggling to get by, that were like, please, for the love of God, just eat some ramen noodles and get over it. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't eat the 50-cent bag of ramen. I just couldn't do it. It was horrible. So I lost a ton of weight. I went super anorexic, just couldn't eat anything, couldn't do anything, didn't want to move, didn't want to get out of bed in the morning, didn't want to walk to school, didn't want to do anything. And at the time I was taking a lot of art classes. That was kind of where I found a lot of solace and a lot of, redemption for myself. And my art teacher noticed that I was severely underweight. And she took me to the counselor, and the counselors took me to a program. And I, through the program, before going and living with a family member, was put in a home with other people who were kicked out that had nowhere to go, which is really crappy. We're all really sad, and no one is really nice and happy and friendly there. So you're living in a home where you aren't really happy, no one really cares. And I go through therapy, and I go through rehabilitation, and I end up at a family member's house, and I ended up living there for a while, and everything's fine now. I'm in school, I'm doing great. There's a lot of positive gains as of right now, but I don't have connection to my family. And I ask a lot of people, they're like, oh my God, I have a horrible day, I just need to call my mom. I wish I could do that. I wish I could call my dad. I wish I could see my little brother and my little sister. My sister's turning 5 this Saturday, and the thought of going home to visit her for her 5th birthday is making me sick to my stomach just thinking about it. It's an absolutely terrible feeling to know that this 5-year-old has no clue why I'm going to miss her birthday. She's not going to understand. She doesn't know why I'm not at home. She calls me, she wants to talk to me, she wants to see me, she's just a kid. But I can't do that with her. I can't have that moment where I can connect with a sibling. I can't be her older sister like I want to be. And it really sucks. And I've got a 3-year-old brother who's the same way. I can't be there for him, and I can't see them grow and learn and prosper. So I have to watch from afar. Like, I see Facebook posts, I see, my mom all over just sending me little messages, letting me know that they're doing okay. But I can't just go visit. I can't just go home, which is probably the most heartbreaking thing that I can possibly think of at any given time, is the thought that I can't go home and have my family, which a lot of people rely on. So it's really hard for holiday season. It's really hard for anything. So I just immerse myself in work and doing and going in hopes that I don't have to think about it. Like, every holiday you'll find me at work. I never take a holiday off of work because I just can't think about it. Can't think about going home for Christmas because it's not a choice. So that would be my story.
At this point, let me ask you all, does anyone have any questions or comments that you'd like to share?
Just out of curiosity, how was it that your parents didn't really receive any backlash?
Can you repeat that just a moment? So we
Just out of curiosity, is it on?
I think so.
Okay, so how did your parents not receive any backlash legally for technically abandoning you by forcefully taking you out?
So I never reported anything. I never reported any kind of abuse or anything. I did at one point attempt to be emancipated, but because I was 17 going on 18 very quickly, they wouldn't sign the papers, and I did technically have a place to stay at the time, which only lasted a couple months. So there was nothing that they could seriously do, not to mention a lot of 17-year-olds leave home, so they try to accuse me of running away.
Any other comments, questions?
We
can hear from next. Yeah.
So I'm Annie. As I mentioned earlier, I was born in France, and I moved here when I was 11. Before I moved here, I think at the age of 6, I want to say it was June 4th, 2004, I got the news that, I had gotten out of school, my mom had picked me up, and we tried to open the door and it was locked. And my father had kicked us out of the house. So for the next 4 years of my life, I was homeless. I was frustrated, 6-year-old, very frustrated, taking the train by myself. My mom has to go to work. And my teachers, instead of maybe trying to figure out why I was so frustrated, were so quick to get on the fact that I'm just a bad child and I'm going to do really bad and I'm never going to be in a college classroom. And, I took those words. I was very frustrated until I moved to America and things started to change for myself. When I first received my first A, I think I was in the 6th grade. And I came back home and I was like, I can't believe this. An A? Me? So I took it well, and I told myself that something is going to change. Now, when I got to college, I also went through UTLSI, and I remember one of my counselors mentioned to me, you know, it's going to get hard. And I said, I know, but I do promise that I'm not going to give up. And like a lot of these people, I have experienced a lot of crazy situations with family. I do today want to highlight on the education aspect of it. I remember that for my freshman year, I called home and I told my mom, you know, I need some money for my schooling or else I won't be able to start class, I think on a Wednesday. And my mom was just like, I don't have it. And my mom did not know that I had her information. So I could see the amount of money that she had, and it was just so hurtful to me that she couldn't help me. Her exact words were that if I was going to take that money from her, I would have to pay her back. So I believe September of that freshman year, I started working. Started working for UT Telephone for 2 years. And it's so hard to work while in school. It is extremely difficult. On top of doing this, I am talented, so I do hair, and I also do makeup. So I'd come back home after work at 9 o'clock. Sometimes I'd have some hair appointments. This is just to have a little money on me. That way I don't go begging from someone or doing maybe illegal things to gain that money. So I'll do the hair maybe till about 12 o'clock. And then this has been a routine since freshman year. After 12 o'clock, I'll study till about 3 a.m., be in the library till 4 a.m. And the story unfolds as that. And everybody's just like, why are you always tired? But little do you know, like, I'm a forceful girl who's trying, because I don't take no for an answer. And I think some few semesters after, I started to get overwhelmed. I was very tired, I was very weary, and my parents were not really helping. So I kind of gave up my second semester. I just got tired and I just gave up and I was losing myself. I was like, this is not the Annie that I know. I need to wake up. So that was when I decided to get on or get my minor in business administration. Now we all know to get that minor in business administration, you need to take accounting. I took accounting the first time and I failed. And at this time, like I said, I was very frustrated, I was annoyed, but like I said, I don't take no for an answer. So I opted to take it again. Some of my classmates take accounting, failed the first exam, and they just withdraw and they said, I'm never touching that class again. I can't be that stressed. So that was discouragement for me. And keep in mind, English is my fourth language, and accounting is a language of its own. So sometimes I also think in French when I'm thinking, so it's just, everything is just a mess in my mind at this point. I take it the second semester. I'm working a lot less, but I'm still trying. Like, I'm trying, you guys, and nothing is looking up. I failed again. And at this point, people are looking at me like, it's either you dumb or you need to do something about it. And I'm just like, it's beyond my control, but I'm not giving up. So I took it again the third semester. The third semester, I had gotten a new job as a beauty consultant. So I'm always getting off work late, working long hours, standing on my feet. And like I said, I have to still make enough money to pay for normal things that, you know, I need to get. The third time I took it, I failed the first exam. There's 3 exams. I failed the first exam. I failed the second exam. And one day at work, I said, you know what, I have to leave today. I'm going to a study session. And after I left the study session, I hit my car whilst I was parking. Not that I don't know how to drive. I'm just frustrated. The mind is all over. So I cried. I was hurt. I was really hurt. I was frustrated. But I told myself that this class will not defeat me. I said that the first time I took it. And it's as though once I said that, it was going to test me to see if really I was going to, you know, I was going to stick to those words. So the final exam come around. I'm at work on a Saturday. I remember very well. And a person of high authority in the college, or should I say in the university, I present to this person my case. I tell them this is what I'm going through. And I had told myself that should I fail this class again, there's gonna have to be a way out, because I've gone to my professors, I've done everything that I can do. this person of high authority did not have the most encouraging words for me, but just told me to let it go. If you can't pass it, you just need to let it go. And those remind me of those words that I got from my professors when I was in France. So I went home in tears, and you know when you're driving and like you're crying, you can't see. So I was so scared. I got home, I cried about it, and I was like, Annie, you gonna the next days you gonna have to be back on your freshman year attitude. This sleeping at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. That was what I was doing for the next week or so to make sure that I passed that exam, because I needed to pass that exam because I still want that minor in business administration. I want to know that I worked hard for it. The day comes, I get in the exam room, I done forgot every single thing that I studied for.
Sound familiar? I know a lot of you are nodding your heads because we're here in CCI and accounting is probably not our first language, right?
So I took the exam, and so a few days later, I realized that I had passed. It took me 3 times. Without my mom's support, without my dad's support. I missed a lot of things because I let go of, you know, just hanging out with friends or whatsoever, just so I could make it through that class. And I'm here today because I'm a diamond in the making.
I want to pause for a moment and let you all know, remind you that you're all in this together, okay? We talked, Dr. Taylor and I were talking earlier with a couple of students about culture. We have a very enduring positive culture here. Okay, so one thing you need to keep in mind as we're listening to our colleagues is that we're in this together, okay? And always remember, you don't know what's going on the other side of that backpack, right? I know some of you in here are sharing quiet stories right now, and if you're comfortable, you're welcome to share with us. But let me ask you all, at this point, do you have some more questions or comments, concerns, anything that you'd like to share with Dr. Baker or one of our colleagues? Because this is your time to talk.
It seems like Annie and Jonathan have told us a little bit about how they cope, and maybe turn back to Ms. Clements for a moment. And, oh, thank you. I wondered what that was falling on my front.
It's me.
Wondered if maybe Ms. Clements would say a word about how she's been able to cope.
So I mean, a lot of my coping was just using resources. I tried coping just on my own and like trying to just take everything in and do everything as I could. But when you're going through something as stressful as like instability in the house and like knowing you can't turn back on anyone, there's no one to fall back on as a kid, you don't really have a good coping mechanism for that. I mean, there's no real right way to treat it. So the fact that someone reached out to me and was just even like, hey, like, are you okay? Was just something that like I hadn't even thought about thinking for myself. Like I didn't think to ask myself like, am I okay? Do I need someone to talk to? So from there, it was just using a lot of my resources. Like I went to counseling, I went through and talked to lawyers and things like that, trying to see if I could get any kind of legal case against my parents, because I still have to fight with them now to get papers for school. So like there's a lot of things that I have to deal with, but like I just fall back on the resources every single time. Like I'll call my aunt and have my aunt talk to my mom for me. I'll, you know, go to therapy and ask my therapist, like, how am I supposed to even approach a birthday party for a 5-year-old? Like, how am I supposed to deal with that? Because it's not that I don't want to go, it's that there's so much resentment at a 5-year-old's birthday party. Like, that shouldn't be a thing, but it is. So, like, how do I cope? It's just a lot of talking and exercising my resources that I have available to me. And then I try to remember that there's always someone that's had it worse than me. Like, I know it's a hard time, and I know it sucks, and that I feel like this is the worst thing ever, but there are people that are getting in car wrecks, there are people that are having a really hard time with classes, there's people that are having a lot harder times than me, and, like, I'm working full-time. Well, I'm really glad that I have a full-time job. There's people that aren't. I'm going to school full-time. There's a lot of people that can't go to school. There's a lot of people that wouldn't be able to go to school because they went through the same situation and can't talk to their parents, but I can, because I forced my parents to talk to me. So it's just a lot of remembering that there's something worse and that there are people available to help you and that there are people that want to help you. So that's a lot of how I've coped with everything and a lot of how I've persevered through a lot of this.
I would like to say that it used to be very hard for me to open up to people as well. I'm the third born. My brothers are 11 and 7 years older than me, roughly. So I caught a lot of the backlash from my mom, from her emotional distress with the marriage of my father and with the butting heads of the middle child as well. I caught a lot of that growing up before I came to college. But going through everything I've gone through now, I've learned to open up a little bit more. 2 people interviewed me to be able to come to UT. My senior year of high school, Mr. Tyree Small, he works in HBP, and Miss Jamia Stokes, she used to work in the Beth Education Complex. But through the first year, and even going back home to Memphis and even coming back, Mr. Tyree Small has been a very great resource for me. He kept communication with me. Back home, it wasn't too much, but he did enough to where I knew I had somebody else in my corner. So no matter what kind of story you have, there is somebody out there. You know, you may feel like that there is nobody out there that can understand the umbrella of your life. But there is somebody who is willing to stand under your umbrella of life with you and to help see you through.
Before we hear from Caitlin, would anyone like to give us some of your input on your strategy for coping? You're all college students. I have 2 of my own. College is hard, I get that. My daughter is a senior here, and I held her while she cried because she was failing courses and was close to losing Hope scholarships. I'm familiar. They buried both of their grandparents in 6 months. She buried my dad and had to go to school the next day off a plane from Detroit. So I get what you're going through. So do any of you want to share some of your strategies for coping? Whether it's exercise or... You're a very quiet group. You're like, no, the panelists will share, but I won't. Pam.
Okay, just a moment.
I can talk loudly.
Okay, but
Okay. So I just wanted to say, like,
this is a recording.
oh, is it recording? Oh, that makes more sense. I think a lot of people in this room can absolutely relate to some part of your all stories, like bits and pieces. I use therapy as a coping strategy, but I also take it one day at a time. Because if you think about all the things that you have to do, you will go into a panic attack. And so you just have to like concentrate on the first thing. So like everyone has midterms coming up, everyone has mid-papers coming up, exams that are about to start before fall break. I freaked out on Sunday, but grasped it together and day at a time. So that's just also a coping mechanism. But also, like, I wanted to like just point out that telling yourself that you have it a lot better than somebody else because of being able to go to school or having a full-time job, that there's always somebody that has it worse than yourself, is also another form of a coping mechanism, because that just helps to boost your positive mindset of keep going, don't give up, be persistent, because somebody else has it worse than me today. So that's also just like another coping mechanism that I too use as well. So, yeah.
Anyone else want to give us some good advice on how you deal with challenges or adversity?
And quickly to add on to that, I would like to say that learning to not compare yourself to others is very, very imperative. Like I mentioned, I'm basically doing this thing on my own. So I can't compare myself to my friend whose mother is dashing dollars and dollars and dollars to her. And I've learned to find the positive things out of things that I'm going through. You best believe when I get out of college and the bills are coming up, I'm not going to be like, what's going on? I'm going to understand. So that's the positive outlook of it. And when you also, if you want to compare yourself to anyone, it should be your role model. So I look up to Oprah. The things that she has been through, such as like abuse and stuff like that, I look at that and I say to myself, if Oprah can make it over there, I know. So just don't compare yourself to others and limit yourself because of the things that other people are going through or what you're going through. Know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you. Okay, and then we're going to hear from Caitlin right after you, Jonathan. Because we've not had a chance to hear from her yet. We're running out of time. Can you table that thought for 2 seconds so we can hear from Caitlin? Thank you so much. Hold that thought. Caitlin, take it away. Now we'll make sure we hear from you.
Yeah, no problem. So I come from a 2-parent household, so I'm very privileged in that aspect. I come from a household that supports me financially, that supports me economically, that supports me educationally. They are constantly in contact with me. My grandparents are coming in town next week because of how much they care about me, and I'm very grateful for that. So I'm very privileged in that aspect of having that support system behind me. However, a lot of my loss has been a lot of loss in pride in myself. So when I was a child, I went through a lot of medical issues. I had severe asthma for the first 5 years of my life. So I basically lived off of a breathing box where I had to put like this fish mask on me for 5 minutes a day and breathe with it. And because of that, I had insomnia. And research has shown that if you have a medical condition like that, that your family really has to support you through, that severe anxiety comes with it. So definitely something I have to deal with on a daily basis. And then in middle school, I was diagnosed with scoliosis, and so I had to wear a back brace for 3 years, which basically means I was a Barbie doll all of middle school. So I would convince people to punch me in the stomach, and they would hurt more than I did, because it was literally a plastic corset. And those are very important years in a child's life. You have like these moments of you want to fit in, you want to be part of something that's considered the norm, and because I had a disability at the time, it made me feel very different than people. And then the high school came around and I realized I was really good at science and I was really good at math. But that wasn't really what I wanted to do. I always wanted to go into film when I was a kid. But because of my grades in science and math, I was always told, hey, you're a woman, you should go into STEM, because we need you in STEM. So I applied to colleges based off of the idea that I wanted to be a computer scientist, because I was really good at computers, because I was able to help people a lot with technology. And I went to UT in the engineering department for 2 years, and I was not happy. Computer science is very difficult if you haven't taken physics before, because they require you to take physics, which makes no sense because physics and computers don't mesh unless you're doing engineering, but computer science is different than engineering in my perspective. So I wasn't happy. I was very anxious. I would go to bed crying. I forced myself to go to bed before midnight because I knew that if I didn't get enough sleep, I would be very anxious the next day, to the point where it would be debilitating and I wouldn't be able to focus on anything or do anything. So like I said, I am a junior, so this is very recent for me, and this is something I'm still dealing with because I was just accepted into the College Scholars Department, so I'm just now doing something that I'm actually passionate about. So last semester for me, dealing with the computer science courses, dealing with these classes that I didn't want to be a part of, being around people that were a lot smarter than I was very difficult for me. And I think that's something that we all kind of struggle with a lot on college campuses, and it's something that we don't talk about. And it's something that we need to start talking about. And so I became more open about these emotions that I was feeling. I became more self-aware of I need help. I need to start talking to people about this. Because it wasn't until I did College Scholars, it wasn't until I finished my alternative break that I finally felt proud of myself. And that was the first time in a decade where I sat down and felt genuinely happy about where I was and about what I was doing. And I want people to feel like that. You all deserve to feel like that. We all deserve to feel like that. Because if you can't find pride in yourself, you're not going to find pride in the work that you're doing or your purpose of being at this college. And I know it's really difficult sometimes for us to find that place on UT's campus because of how large we are and how big we are, and that's why I'm really grateful for the experiences I've had with these different orgs that I've talked about. Because they have supplied so many resources for me and so many assets and so many great lasting friendships that I honestly would not be sitting here today if I weren't in those places. So that being said, if you are dealing with these emotions, these feelings, which is 100% valid, even if it's like your socks are dirty and you're really anxious about it because they're your favorite pair of socks. That's valid. And the Student Counseling Center has 12 free sessions that's a part of your tuition that you pay to this college. They're free 12 per semester or per year?
Per academic
Per
year.
academic year. Utilize them. They are so important and they're so useful, and it's not a bad thing to utilize that source. Going to therapy is not bad, and it has a huge negative stigma behind it, and it shouldn't, because it's really helpful for a lot of people. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask me.
This is good, great segue, because I wanted to make sure that we got to hear from Dr. Baker. I understand this is a very big place and you don't know where to turn sometimes. The layers of the UT onion are very deep. So Dr. Baker, take it away. Tell us, and then if you anonymously need to call or email or text, share with the students so they know where the resources are, so they don't have to spend days digging.
So you all have a brochure that will give you some of this information, so if you don't remember it all, it's okay. But our website is also a great resource, but essentially how we take people in is through drop-in appointments. So we have drop-in appointments every day between 10 and 3. They're first come, first served, so you come to the front desk, they'll ask you based on a sheet that they hand you what type of appointment you need, and that's how you get started. So that's like a 15-minute session for you to explain to a counselor what's going on, what you feel like you need at that moment, and from there they're going to get you set up with the kind of services that would be best for you. So I know that going to that first, even just walking in the door can be scary sometimes, but we are there because we want to talk to you. Our primary focus is the students, and we only see students because we're concerned with you and your well-being, and we want to help you in any way that we can. I'm happy to answer like specific questions about that, but I think that's just kind of the gist of it.
And you've got contact information for them, right?
Yeah,
so they know how
so
to get a hold of you all.
the contact information for the counseling center in general is on the very back. It's on the orange page. So that gives, I think, our hours as well as our email address and phone number. But really, honestly, the best way to get started is just to walk in.
There's also a 24-hour hotline, 974-HELP, which I know a lot of you have probably heard about. There's magnets in the back if you want to have that on your fridge always. This hotline is channeled now through the Dean of Students office, but it's a really awesome way for you if you are going through something really like in the moment and you really can't like leave, or you feel like one of your friends is really struggling. That's a really great resource to use because professionals are there willing to help and help you with that. If you are calling because of a friend, what they'll do is they'll take down their information anonymously and give them a call and say, hey, someone's worried about you, which is a really awesome resource that I feel like isn't utilized really heavily on this campus. So just be aware that that's also something that you can use if you're struggling.
Ladies and gentlemen, anxiety is real, and I know a lot of you tuck it in your back pocket. So anxiety is real. They're bleeding hearts sharing with you out loud what a lot of you, I'm sure, are feeling. So reach out to somebody. I know the extreme side of anxiety would be like taking your life, and we're not going to get real deep because I don't want us to leave today on a low note. But do know that you need, if you see somebody, I had to deal with this recently with one of my students, okay? If you see somebody, and I don't know what that looks like. It looks like differently for everybody. But as Caitlin says, reach out to them. If it's yourself, reach out to somebody, okay? Anxiety, depression, suicide among your generation is huge. It's very big. You have a lot more to contend with than we baby boomers and seniors do when we were you. So we get that, all right? So don't put it in your back pocket and think that anxiety is just something that you think you have. It's so prevalent, and I won't ask for a show of hands, but if we were quietly asking, I make statistics up regularly. 1 in 3 of you would be raising your hands, right? And I know that you've been there. So I know Jonathan had some comments he wanted to make, and then we want to hear from you all, okay? Because we've got a few more minutes. Jonathan.
2 things I was going to say. First thing was to just kind of piggyback off what Annie said when she said, don't compare yourself to anybody, but if you did, maybe towards somebody that you look up to greatly. Something else that we can do, we can compare ourselves to our yesterday selves. Think about where you are today, and if you can just find one thing or one aspect of your current self today and see how you've grown from yesterday and speak positively towards that, then that's a great start. You know, speak life into your situation. Speak positive, you know. Don't think about, oh man, this won't work. No, that'll never happen. No, say yes. Yes, it will. Because usually, whatever energy you put out into the universe, universe will
Research is
return
showing
it.
that we give off energy, good and bad. I know this is a research institution. Research is showing. Neuroscience, gratitude. Gratitude helps you, your face looks nicer, your makeup looks sparklier, you have better health, your anxiety diminishes, so gratitude is really important. And as Jonathan's saying, right, lifting your own self up, positive talk. We do that a lot in my home.
And the second thing I say, this session was about coping with life issues, specifically your own. But I would also like to challenge you guys to help somebody else cope with theirs. Because by you helping somebody else cope with theirs, that could potentially also help you cope with your own. Me, I like to tell people, I know we all don't personally know each other, but I am always open to being a good friend, a good listening ear, or a positive piece of energy for you. If you ever want to connect with me, feel free to do so.
Right there.
Feel free to connect with me, do so. I definitely don't mind reaching back to you and giving you some words of encouragement, so forth and so on. But yeah, I challenge you to just randomly tell somebody, hey, you're a beautiful individual, or hey, you have an impeccable smile. You never know what that could simply do, not only for somebody's day, but for somebody's life.
I'd like you all to do something quickly, if you could, based on what my colleagues are sharing with us. Take out a piece of paper and just write something positive that you would like to give to somebody else. I don't know if you've all seen this going viral on Facebook, but the child's mother writes, "Have a great day," or "You're beautiful," and that Post-it note went viral. Write something nice that you want to just leave in the bathroom or stick in somebody's backpack so that you can pay it forward. Seriously, I'd say take out your phones, which, you know, you all got your phones. Maybe we could do that too. Take out your phone and just send someone a nice gesture right now. Somebody in your car. Why don't we do that? I know you love your phones. Take out your phones, send somebody a nice message, right? We've got a few more minutes for comments, questions, concerns before we get you on to your next class. Sir?
I was going to ask Jonathan if you could repeat that statement you made, the what you saying, M-I-M-O. Can you say that again?
Yeah.
M-I-M-O.
So,
I'll write that down.
Suffer through minor inconveniences so that you can get to the mass opportunity.
M-I-M-O. Anyone else? Comments? Sir?
So I'm in my first semester as a PhD student, so I'm at my first time as a teaching assistant, and I'm learning how to teach. So my question is, what can teachers like myself in the future, or any of us who are just now starting to teach, what can we do to help you guys? I know Annie and Jonathan, you both mentioned things in the classroom, like what can we do to make things easier and better in the future?
I think you should be able to read or try to read your students. When you have that one student that always comes on time, but that one day they don't come on time, don't hold it against them. Like, try to figure out, especially if you can create that bond. It's very important to have a bond with your professors. I think that's what has held me all these years, because I would have quit a long time ago, if I didn't have bonds with my professors. But some of them could tell I was off at some point.
And you can go. Also, like, greeting students is a really big deal. For me personally, I really like it when a teacher walks in and is like, "Hey, how are you today?" Because if I'm having a terrible day, I can kind of lead that into a conversation about, like, how can I receive help? Because a lot of times teachers know about resources through the school, or at least like a way to talk to someone else. Like, it's just like a nice kind of bonding moment where you A, get to know your student, and B, you can help them out if they feel more confident to come talk to you if they know that you're open and willing to talk.
Yeah. I've had many professors at the first day of our syllabus day, they immediately give us all the resources that are available on campus. And And I think that's really important, especially if you're teaching a first year class, because sometimes the students don't really know the resources that are available on campus. Also speaking to that, it is really important, this is just like a tidbit side note, because you are paid by the university, you are a mandatory reporter for sexual assault survivors and victims. So it's very important that you disclose that information the first day. Because sometimes students will feel like that you're a good resource to talk to, and then if they don't know that you are a mandatory reporter, that can be very detrimental to their mental health. So yeah, if any of you are paid through the university, like as a staff or faculty member, make sure that you are transparent with your people that you're working with, because sometimes that can be a very difficult
So
space
if you share something with us, we are bound as state employees because we're looking out for you. It's not just checking the box.
We are not. So therapists and mental health counselors are not considered mandated reporters when it comes to sexual violence. So you can also send them our way.
Conversely, you need to get to know your professors too. I know it's a lot of the classes here. When you get to CCI, they're smaller. So when you get over into your major, introduce yourself. Talk to your professors. Get to know them. The classes get smaller. I know our classes here, you'll have an auditorium class here or there, but most of them are 20, 30, 40 students. Then you get into your labs. You have to come to us too. So we can't proactively, knock on 25, 30 doors. That's important for us to get to know you as well. Do you have some more comments, questions? I know we're getting ready to wrap it up. Sir.
I was going to answer this question.
Sure.
From teacher to student, like Annie said, being able to read your students, gauge, kind of gauge how they're feeling, because you never know what somebody may be dealing with. And feel free to, maybe at the start of class, let your whole class know, hey, you guys are amazing. I'm glad to have you guys here. I can't wait to impact your life, through the lecture and so forth and so on. And if there is maybe a student that you might feel that may be going through something that you can't really figure out if it's really, allowing him or her to focus in class, just say, hey Josh, if you don't mind, may I have an encouraging moment with you after the lecture is over? I'll let speak to you.
Well, I want to wrap things up, and I want to first of all thank you, all of our panelists. We appreciate you speaking with us about such sensitive, life-altering challenges you've had. I want to thank all of you. I'm just really honored to be back here working with you all. This is such an important topic. And I want you all to be kind to yourselves and kind to each other, okay? And I want to wrap things up and leave you with 2 words. Choose joy. Have a great week. Go Balls. Maybe we'll win a football game.
Hold on 1 second. I just want to thank the panel as well, but also want to let you know that we have a keynote panel tonight in the auditorium from 5:45 to 6:45 with UT athletes talking about their experiences with diversity and inclusion on campus. And tomorrow night we have the Diversity Festival from 5 to 7 here in the building. So hopefully we have some other sessions today and tomorrow. So hopefully you'll be able to come to another one of these sessions or to the keynote tonight at the festival tomorrow. Thank you all for coming and have a great rest of the week.
Free food at the festival. Thank you.
So I'm a member of Diversity and Community Society.
Yes.